Welcome to Second Chapter Careers, the podcast that shares real, unfiltered stories of bold career changes to inspire your own next move. I'm Sari Holtz, a certified career coach helping young adults find direction and midlife professionals realign with purpose and intention. Today's guest has been hired to fire people. Then she was hired to sell to people. And then she was replaced by a robot. Hilary Faverman's career has been anything but linear, and that's exactly why you need to hear it. From corporate HR to high-level marketer to losing her business to AI, Hilary has seen it all and learned so much. And at 50, she found a version of purpose that she didn't even know she was missing. This conversation is raw, funny, and deeply human. If you've ever faced a hard reset, or you're staring one down now, you'll want to hear Hilary's candid thoughts on avoiding shame, accepting a lower salary, and doing what it takes to pay the mortgage. Hi, everyone. Today, I'm really excited to introduce Hilary Faverman. Hilary is going to take us through her career journey and how AI and October 7th impacted the way she works and what she wanted out of life. I think it's a story that a lot of people can relate to, and I'm really excited to hear it together with you. So, Hilary, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your background, where you come from, what you studied, what you thought you were going to do with your life?
Which are three completely different things. I am from Milwaukee. Our claim to fame is Golda Meir and the Fonz and Harley Davidson. There are all good things. There aren't many more. I made Aliyah when I was 30. I am now turning 50 next week. So I've been here almost 20 years.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Big golden birthday, which of course we're supposed to go to Tel Aviv and have a wonderful celebration. And let's see if everything is still closed. I met my Israeli husband many, many years ago when he came to visit in the States and promised he would never live in Israel again. We got married, and 5 years later, he came home one day when we had a beautiful little one-bedroom apartment in the East Village and said to me, "Higia zman lachzor habayta." Well, I didn't speak Hebrew, so I have no idea what he said. So he translated it for me. As it turns out, he was ready to move back home. I thought home meant Milwaukee. It did not. We fought for a year. I cried a lot. I lost. And we moved. My education, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is 40,000 undergrads and one of the biggest party schools in the nation. And I studied political science for 4 years and then went to intern with the State Department because I figured, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a politician. And I went to Georgetown and I worked on Capitol Hill for a summer. And 3 months was enough. I turned 180 and walked away. No lawyer, no politician. I don't like these people. I don't like how they get things done. I better figure out another career. And this was in my 4th year of college. So
yeah, I can totally relate. I also studied politics, by the way. I also thought maybe I'd be a lawyer or a politician. And I made that life-changing discovery that I do not want this after working in a law firm while I was in college. And I was like, oh my God, I hate this.
That was it.
Exactly. Okay, so you turned around from that, and then where did you launch your career?
My first job right out of college, I got recruited into Anderson Consulting to be a management consultant. And that blew up in my face about 7 weeks later. I actually moved from Milwaukee to San Francisco for the job, and they put me in their process group, and process means computer programming. So I was in a group of 30 individuals, all who had studied comp sci, while I had studied international relations. And while I was absolutely scintillating at cocktail parties, I did not know how to program in C++. So that lasted 7 weeks, and I literally put my stuff down and walked out the door. I didn't give notice. I walked out the door. So I was in San Francisco with no job, a liberal arts degree. And this was in like 98. Everybody was making money. The bubble had not popped. So I walked into a recruitment agency and started a career in human resources that lasted 15 years.
Okay, so tell us about that. What did you do in human resources? Did you like it?
Did you need any skills or training to get there?
Well, everybody was being hired back at that time, which is starkly different than the market today. And I started as a headhunter. I was a recruiter, and the interviewing skills that I learned there have been the basis for every career pivot and every professional move I have made. If you can really not only ask people, but be genuinely interested in their story, if they're willing to tell you and you can write it well, you can do well in any career you want. That is what I discovered at 22 when I started a career in human resources. So I did that in the States for about 15 years, and I got promoted a number of times to the point where I ended up, before I made Aliyah, flying around the country and firing people as a job.
That sounds terrible.
Bad for karma. Really awful for karma. Not only was I under 30 and flying around the country on behalf of American Express to fire people twice my age, I already had one foot out the door to Israel, because we knew we were moving. You've seen that movie Up in the Air with George Clooney, who runs around and fires people? Came out like 10, 15 years ago. So that was me in a much cheaper suit. And it got to the point where I would walk into an office in Florida or Cincinnati or wherever, and people would turn on their heels and walk away from me. I was the angel of death. No fun. I don't recommend it karma-wise. Coming off of that, I went to work in a flower shop for 6 months because I needed joy. It was the best break on the planet.
Wow, that is quite the change. But since that was clearly not your career, let's talk about what happened next. Then you moved to Israel after that?
I moved to Israel speaking zero Hebrew. Like zero. I could say, the clock is on the wall after 7 years of Hebrew school. I had come with a limited liability kind of background. Most of my work had been limiting liability for corporations if they got sued for sexual harassment. So all of my skills were useless. My legal knowledge was useless. I spoke no Hebrew. I was pregnant in 8 minutes because I lived in Jerusalem, and I swear to you, something's in the water. And I had to start from zero. So I went from making $100,000 in New York as an HR professional to making $8 an hour as a secretary for people in the States on the phone. I got up every day, 6 days a week for a year as a virtual assistant at 6 a.m. for people on the West Coast. Worked my way up in that company, took me about 5 years. I ended up running that outsourcing company, and that is where I learned corporate content marketing, which was career number 2.
Okay. So tell us about corporate content marketing.
Corporate content marketing is really more of an education and a storytelling experience. We, on behalf of some of the biggies, I've written for Google, I've written for HP, I write for Kakal. You're talking about getting someone to not only understand what you're selling, but also to appreciate it and to value the differentiator. So whether I was writing for third sector to stimulate donations, or for B2B case studies for Google. Why is this better? Why is it better than anything else out there? What's the differentiator? People are people. They want to hear stories. They want their lives to be easier. If we can offer something that will make them look better, make them more efficient, empower them not to do administrative tasks. This is the ikar of what I was writing. And I found it very, very satisfying for a long time. And I built up an agency. At our height, I believe we were 8 people. We had, I want to say, 14, 15 clients simultaneously. So I was running everything from home, and I did that for nearly a decade. And I would not honestly have started a business. I never pictured myself when I was young as an entrepreneur. However, I had 3 kids in 5 years. 3 kids in 5 years. So I hadn't slept in 5 years. I needed to bring in an income. Israel is one of the most expensive countries on the planet. We could not make it on one income as much as I would have liked to. So I had to open a business in order to do what I was good at doing, make the money, and work from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m., be with the kids from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then go back to work. There was not an in-house position I could find that would allow me that flexibility, which is why I founded and grew a business.
And did you enjoy having your own business and doing corporate content marketing?
Very much. The reason it was such a sexy thing for me is because when I'm working with 14 different clients, I get to learn about innovation in 14 different sectors all the time. From visual aids and hearing aids and what the new technology is about that and why it's different and why it's special, to blockchain and cryptocurrency and security. We did a lot of cybersecurity. These things interest me. And I want to be exceptionally wary of aging into the place where I am no longer interested in adapting and learning. That is gvulot number one for me. That is a very important, how do you translate gvulot? Boundaries.
Boundary. Mhm.
So it's a very important boundary for me. As I age, I want to ensure that I am still welcoming, adapting, learning, and excited about the new stuff that comes. I don't want to be one of those people that goes, I've learned enough. Not ready to turn off that switch.
Right. That's very impressive and also inspiring. I think a lot of people are just tired by the time they get to middle age, and it's hard to keep learning and pivoting. So I think it's terrific that you want
That's
to.
one of the reasons that I made pivot number 2. I had gone from HR to corporate marketing, which was pivot number 1. And that was at 30. Now that I'm 50, I'm pivoting again from corporate content marketing to nonprofit. Maybe it doesn't sound like a big move, but wow, I have a boss now for the first time in 22 years. So it's challenging to get used to because I don't make the rules. But the reason I founded a business was not because I had an issue with authority. It's because I had an issue with schedule. So as much as I kind of expected really to have a challenging time accepting new authority, it's totally fine. It really is something that I'm welcoming. And because I'm in a new field now, how many opportunities do you get at 50 to start from ground zero and learn a new field? It's helping keep me young.
Well, that and the kids.
That and the kids, which explains this background. Normally, I would have a beautiful wooden chest behind me because that's where I do all my calls. But of course, schools are closed, so I'm upstairs hiding from my kids.
Okay. Well, you just mentioned a lot of parts of the story all in one breath about pivot number 2, but you didn't say how you got there, and about the kids being home, but we didn't talk about that. So let's take a step back and talk about what happened to this business that you built that was employing 8 people at a time with 14 clients that you loved and were interested in. What changed?
Two things changed. First, before the war hit us, ChatGPT hit us. And about half our clients were startups, Israeli startups, looking to market in the States or in Europe. And our native English and storytelling, they needed just get something up, get blogs up, get a website up. We have to have something, interview our CEO, interview our founder, brain drain our C-level, and then write. And that was a very big chunk of what we did. ChatGPT, I welcomed it as it came, and I published a couple of articles when it first came out about how long people in my industry had to survive. And I estimated at the beginning 18 months, and it was almost 18 months to the day that I closed the business. We still hang on to some legacy clients. I'm still writing for Google. I'm still writing for Kakal. But most of what we were doing, which was drain the brain of the C-suite and put it into recyclable, reusable content, ChatGPT does it and does it well. And I am not going to deny that, nor was I in any kind of position to convince clients that DeepSeek and all that Grok, all of the tools were not going to be good enough for them. For most of my clients, they are. They are. And they're getting better all the time. We still do a lot of thought leadership, but we have contracted down to 2. It's me and my right hand, Aviva. We've worked together for 14 years, but I had to let go of most of my staff because the demand dropped so significantly. While that was happening, and I was keeping my finger on the pulse of the industry, how much can we hang on to? Do we need to pivot? Can we work with these tools? Can we become more efficient because of the tools? October 7th hit and rendered, as you know, all of us absolutely speechless. It took my family about a couple of weeks to breathe, to get our heads in the game. And we took off about a week and a half after the war started. I absolutely did not feel safe. I was sitting on the couch on our deck in the middle of the night with my husband on guard duty because all the men in the moshav were taking turns. And I got a notification that was some kind of break-in in the area. And it was this little ninja guy, like a cartoon with a mask. And I couldn't. I bought plane tickets that night. They got canceled. I bought plane tickets again the next day. They didn't. We took off for a month, and moving my family to Greece in a tiny little hotel room with one burner for 30 days, me and my husband and the 4 kids in 20 meters, more than anything else, we had to reflect on where we belong. We sat for a month with 11 other Israeli families in Greece, determining where we belonged. And my then 18-year-old, who was just about to go into the army, came to me and said, "You have raised us as Zionists. Has that changed?" Like, oh my God. So we look to the younger generation to remind us of our values. We came back and I started a search. Being this age, at this time, in the middle of the scariest peace that Israel has seen, I cannot, in good conscience, not contribute. I couldn't any longer. And so I started a search to work in corporate content marketing, but for something for this country that I believe in. If we're gonna call ourselves Zionists, if I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, literally, I better join something. I'm not someone who bakes for soldiers. We don't keep a kosher kitchen in my house. They don't want my cookies. I am not a protester necessarily. I needed to make boots on the ground changes. So I started a search. I have a habit of arming myself with information when I'm freaked out. So I searched through probably 150 or so Israeli nonprofits looking for proof of concept, reasonable funding, leadership that I could believe in, and a values-driven place that aligns with me. I found an organization which is tiny in number, but very significant in impact, and joined an organization called Chupot. I was hire number 6, I think. And what we do is we conduct Orthodox weddings outside the Rabbanut in an effort to break the Rabbanut's monopoly on marriage in this country. And I chose this specifically because the proof of concept that Chupot offers, the parent organization of Chupot is called Hashgacha Pratit. And they are the ones who broke the Rabbanut's monopoly on kashrut services back in 2018. So because they had proof of concept, and I'm from the corporate world, I'm always looking for return on investment. I don't want to talk, I want to do. Because they were able to do it, I am confident that when I joined this organization, and we will make that change in this country as Zionists for the public.
Okay. So to just take a step back, and then we'll hit on all that you just said. How did it feel to lose your business pretty much and to have to fire all those people that you had actually hired, not just, strangers that you flew to fire? How'd that feel? And as a follow-up question, which I'll throw out already, is I think so many people are either hesitant or embarrassed to talk about when their businesses fail. And here you are being so open about it and candid about both the technological changes that caused that and the war changes. So I think taken together, that's pretty heavy. Maybe if you can, please paint us a picture of how did all of that feel sitting on your shoulders in this extremely heavy period of time and of history?
I lost all sense of time and space for the first month or so and had a horrible, horrible sinking feeling of survivor's guilt, which I think a lot of us did. We were staying in this beautiful place with mountains and swimming, and I couldn't look at the mountains and I couldn't get in the water. And it felt oppressive and very, very heavy and very scary. And I had to, from Greece, call everybody and scale down. We don't have work coming in. And I never experienced the shame of this. The world changed. The technology changed. I was a good writer before. I'm still a good writer. It was not a shameful thing. The business didn't collapse because I managed it badly, because we didn't have talented people, because we weren't getting back to clients. It didn't make the money that I needed to make personally because the world changed and the technology changed. So I owned that closure. I have no interest in sugarcoating what happened. I found myself in a position that many, many writers found themselves in. We all had lots of conversations. What do we do? How do we pay the mortgage? How do we adapt? A lot of people got angry. Getting angry at a technology and at the world didn't seem real productive to me. So I embraced a pivot. How do I continue to pay my mortgage? How do I contribute as a Zionist? How do I keep my energy focused? When we were in Greece in the tiny little hotel room, I didn't do any work for the first 3 weeks. I wasn't in touch with my clients, only my employees. And then a member of one of the other 11 families who we were there with asked me to help her with her website. And it brought me back into the world of work. And I spent 2 days working on our website, and it brought me such fulfillment. I felt useless, hopeless, a very low sense of efficacy. There's nothing I can do. We ran. Who are we? But the ability to focus on something that was productive brought me back. It brought me back into work. It brought me back into consciousness, into contribution, and literally back into Israel.
Wow. That's a lot. And probably you probably did it in such a graceful way. Oh, I didn't watch it happen, but
Oh, it
I
was a
can
lot of ugly
imagine that you
crying. It was an ugly cry. Several
I
days.
imagine that for your kids, it was probably like a huge life lesson of change, adaptability, and moving forward, which is a lot of people get stuck. And I think it's terrific, despite all the challenges, that you didn't stay stuck for more than a couple of days or weeks. I think some people here are still stuck.
Felt stuck. And one of the things that middle age has taught me is perspective. I have a better perspective than I used to. And when I'm 60, I expect to have a better perspective than I do today. It's not just the gray hair that I've earned. It's a little bit of wisdom in terms of what can I learn? The transition into an organization that is very diverse. We're only 6 people, but we have 3 generations, all the genders, and every piece of the religious spectrum represented. And what I'm learning, because so many are in the younger generation in my office, I mean, really, I could be their mothers. They're Israeli women who are in their 20s and 30s are teaching me the value of standing up, staring a low sense of efficacy in the face, saying, we can, we are, and we will. And this is a value that, because most of my work was corporate, most of my work was remote, I was never part of an internal team before. I've actually never had professional exposure to Israeli women on a regular basis, especially the generation below me. And it is such an opportunity to learn how to, I'm Midwestern. Girls in the Midwest are taught to smile and look at the floor. We are people pleasers. We are agreeers. We are not aggressors. So I am now having the opportunity to learn from these younger women how to state your case, back it up, even in the face of, no, you're wrong.
Okay, we didn't really talk about exactly what chupot does. And for those who are not familiar, chupot literally means canopies. It's referring to the Jewish wedding canopy. So maybe just for those unaffiliated or uninitiated, explain a little bit about why this is such an important issue for Israel and why it's meaningful for you, especially as someone who is not religious, but you're working at an organization that deals with religious issues. So I think there's a lot to
Indeed.
unpack there.
It's maybe a bit unusual on its face. However, I grew up in a Masorti family. I went one direction, my sister went the other. It's just the 2 of us because we're a typical American family with 2 kids, 3 years apart. And she found God. She went Bal Tshuva when she was 16 and joined NCSY, which is a Orthodox youth movement in the States. My parents sent me into NCSY after a year of her participation as a spy because they thought it was a cult. So I went in as a spy. While my sister found all the people davening, I found the people behind the davening who were smoking. So each of us found our community. And since then, and that was, I must have been 15, I've been exposed to religious environments quite a bit. My sister, she and I are very, very close. I would call us best friends. She is Chaldali, as are all my nieces and nephews. And so we have had to, because there's only 2 of us and we're both in Israel, we've had to make it work. We don't keep kosher. We don't keep Shabbat. They keep as much as one can keep. So if you put a kisui rosh, if you put a head covering on me and put me next to my sister, then we look the same. Without it, a little less. So I've always been comfortable in religious environments. I used to work for Temech, which is a Haredi organization, putting women to work and training women to elevate the level of financial independence in the Haredi world. What chupot does is we battle the monopoly of the chief rabbanut in Israel. The chief rabbanut has a monopoly on several things in terms of religious services in this country. As an American, I grew up with a separation of church and state. Here in Israel, there is no separation of religion and state. And so the monopoly of the chief rabbanot covers birth, death, burial, divorce, marriage, and conversion. Our parent organization was successful in breaking that monopoly in 2018 with a Supreme Court win for kashrut services. Kashrut services used to be exclusively under the control of the chief rabbanut in this country. Since 2018, the monopoly is broken, and Sohar and other kashrut services can offer a hashgacha. Since then, Chupot turned its attention to weddings. There are giant populations in this country that this country refuses to marry. We're actually the only country on the planet that can and does refuse to marry two Jews to each other, two consenting Jews. Why? Because the chief rabbanut does not always allow people who say they're Jewish to marry other Jews. There's a very long list of sort of blacklisted people, people with no identity. Even if they were Jewish enough to make aliyah, they're not Jewish enough to get married. So Chupot has risen to this occasion. And we actually have a new partnership with Chokhmat Nashim, which some of your audience may recognize. And we're working with JOFA, the Jewish Orthodox Feminist Alliance, to get the word out. We've been in existence since 2018. We've married over 1,700 couples. All of our marriages are halachically sound. They are strictly Orthodox, but they are outside the auspices of the Rabbanut.
And are those ultimately recognized by the government?
Sadly, not yet. We're working on a grassroots revolution. But when you get married through Chupot, it is an Orthodox wedding. And then many of our couples will get married, believe it or not, on Zoom in Utah, because once they get married outside the country, their marriage then can be registered legally inside Israel. So Israel is actually the largest consumer internationally of Utah's wedding Zoom services.
That is bonkers.
Bonkers.
Fascinating.
Absolutely bonkers. I just cannot call myself a Jewish Zionist and live in a country that refuses to marry Jews to each other. We are fighting that.
Okay, so just on one foot, what is the difference basically between what you do and what the rabbinate does?
So the weddings, the rabbinate weddings and our weddings look remarkably similar. And we've had a lot of questions. Wait a minute, doesn't Sohel do that? Actually, no. Sohel will marry you through the rabbanut. They're basically a very nice buffer between the couple and the rabbanut. We bypass the rabbanut. We have zero interest in supporting a monopolistic, coercive body that claims to represent us, but doesn't. So a Chupot wedding, we have a network of about 35 rabbis across the country, both male and female, Orthodox rabbis, who will marry you. And the ceremony itself looks very, very similar because the halacha is the same. There is nothing permitted that we will make into not permitted. There is nothing that is not allowed that we will make allowed. We simply expand as much as we can in terms of flexibility within the box of halacha.
Okay. And what exactly is your role at Chupot?
I'm the money girl. It's my job to make sure that we have enough foundational and private funding coming in to do our work. We marry about 350 to 400 couples per year. Some weeks at peak season, we have 14, 15 weddings a week.
Wow.
So it's my job to make sure, A, that people in the diaspora and people in Israel know who we are and what we do, because we're a tiny little organization. And two, to make sure that people are donating. Both foundationally, we're backed by the Aviv Foundation. We're backed by IREP, which is a conglomeration of Jewish federations in the States. We're backed by a number of significant private donors who agree with the revolution that we are starting and continuing. But more or less, my job is influence. Go out there, educate people like I've always done, tell the stories like I love to do, and hopefully get some money.
Do you find that telling the nonprofit narrative is similar to the corporate narrative, or it's a totally different type of thing? I think a lot of people, especially
so
in
much
Middle
better
East.
for me.
Why? Tell me why it's better.
Because it's the first time in my life that I have written with my guts. I am writing, listen, how excited can you get about a new version of software? Like, I can do it. I absolutely can do it because I'm paid to do it. So I do it. But the option of getting excited about a nation I can be proud of. I'm proud of a million things about this country. Look what we're able to do. We're in the middle of a nightmare. We are still getting up, going to work, making the schnitzel, raising our kids. We're doing all the things. However, if I can be a tiny little part of something that is making this nation more livable for my children, if they can have more choices, the satisfaction of writing for this, never in my life have I experienced this kind of satisfaction. Now, I'll tell you, the jump from corporate content marketing to nonprofit marketing is a big fat change in salary. So if anybody's looking at making this move, think twice, think 3 times. I've had to give up a lot of things.
Well, in this scope of doing this podcast, I've interviewed a couple of people, and for anyone listening, I'll just throw out my first guest, Yechiel Greenblum, changed also from corporate into teaching because he was missing that meaning in his life. And I also interviewed Rabbi Anthony Manning, who was an Oxford-educated lawyer who became a rabbi and ultimately a Rosh Yeshiva with no formal religious schooling. He had to retrain. I think that the search for meaning in midlife is real. That's a real trend. It's a real feeling, especially at the end of, I want to end my career with something I'm going to feel and be proud of.
A legacy,
and not
if you
just
will.
with those dollars in the bank.
Listen, I don't discount dollars in the bank. I have a big fat mortgage. I have 4 kids, 3 year-end braces. We have a lot of expenses, and this is a very expensive place to live. So that switch from running a company, listen, we were billing, I want to say 50,000 shekel a month probably. And I was taking home 12, 14, some months it was 18, some months it was 8. The switch into nonprofit, my money is now stable. It's not very big, but it's stable. And it really has been a challenge getting used to it. Not only do I have boss and colleagues and I have to get dressed and I have to go on the light rail and I have to show up in an office and I have to make my lunch and bring it with me, which I have never done as an adult. So all of those little changes were shocking. But more significantly, I went from money's up, money's down, money's up, money's gone, to this is the money that you have. This is the money that you're making. And while entrepreneurship can be very exciting and super, super sexy because you have new clients all the time and you're doing new stuff all the time and you're driving business development and you're closing contracts and you're negotiating and it's wonderful, it also means that in August and at Pesach, you didn't make any money. And that got tiresome after 10 years. The lack of stability was very challenging when we are trying hard to plan our monthly expenses. I went to Rivka Leibowitz's conference last year, Living Financially Smarter, and she had this wonderful session on, yes, you have a budget. That's so cute. Are you actually going to use it? And so I learned from her, how do you chart your monthly expenses? And then how do you chart your monthly income? Well, my monthly income went like that. So now that my monthly income is this, it's not an award-winning salary, but at least I know what's coming and what we need to cut. And we had to listen, I'm not embarrassed. We had to make some changes. There were things that we can't do anymore, or at least not right now. So, okay. Kids go to school camp, not private camp. We go to yoga twice a week, not 4 times. We are squeezing our own orange juice on Shabbat instead of, buying the pre-made. There were many, many changes that I had to put into place for our family in order to live on a nonprofit salary. And that is something that everybody needs to weigh.
Yeah. Well, first of all, applaud you and laud you for throwing out those numbers and for being so real about it, because I think, most people, especially not around here, don't like to talk numbers and salary.
People don't want to talk numbers. Why? Why? We're not all struggling. We're not all trying. We're not all having to piece it together. Yes, I'm still taking some corporate clients. Yes, I still do some things here and some things there. We have to make it work. And I'll be damned at this age if we're going to be ashamed of it.
I totally agree. And I think that that's a conversation that we need to be having more, especially for, people in our children's generation who have to pick a career and have no idea how much it costs to pay a mortgage and pay for braces or camp or whatever. And just pick a career because it sounds sexy. And I think that it's okay to pick a career that doesn't pay as much and to pick something because of the meaning or because it's your skill set.
As
But
long as you know what the consequences are and you have
exactly.
planned that in. I mean, as much as I'd love to go, find something fulfilling and chase that dream. Big fat mortgage, lots of braces. I had to do it pragmatically. And I went and sought out the right nonprofit for me that aligns and that has the proof of concept and everything else. I'm not telling everybody they need to run a nonprofit, but in middle age, after October 7th, I needed to be part of a movement. And because I'm not making the schnitzel for the soldiers, this is what I chose to do. And I've been there, 8 months now? It was the best move possible for me. I am now moving through this war knowing that I am contributing. Granted, my oldest is in Shmona Matayim, so the next
Wow.
generation is contributing as well.
Right.
And, where our second one is going through Miyunim, he's getting ready for the army. We all need to contribute. And I'm contributing to my family, but I better contribute to this nation.
It sounds like that's something you didn't know you needed until October 7th. Am I getting that right? That's so interesting.
I come from socialist parents. We were
Mhm.
picketing, like my dad was a socialist my parents are from California. They got married in 68 in San Francisco. So like I come by the hippie protesting gene very honestly, and I ran from it. I mean, in high school, I decided I was a Republican. And I was going to not only be rich, but marry rich. Neither of those things happened. And it just, because I had come from such a politically invested family, as any teenager does, I did a 180 and walked away from it. And it took me until the nightmare of October 7th to get my calling back. My sister already works at a nonprofit. Both my parents were teachers for 35 years. I fought it. I really fought it for a long time. And October 7th, there was enough in my face that I needed to make a change, and that was the catalyst.
Well, considering how many people are just trying to survive in the post-October 7th era, I think it's fantastic that you're not just surviving, but that you're using it as an impetus to make a positive change, both in your life and in the country.
Many people use this as a catalyst to become movers, shakers, changers, people who never thought they would be giving speeches, people who never thought that they would be advocating in Knesset or going to the States and talking to the American government. People have pulled talents and reserves of energy and dedication out of absolutely nowhere. And it's more than resilience, it's a commitment.
I absolutely love that. I want to talk just for a few seconds before we wrap up about your experiences in HR. I understand you also do volunteer work to help people with their resumes or to help people get hired. So tell us a little bit about how you're clinging to your roots in that way and paying that forward.
Okay, so because I had a career of human resources for like 15, closer to 15 years, when I got to Israel, there were not a lot of volunteer opportunities for someone who had young kids and spoke no Hebrew. So I have always had a little piece of me that has helped with resumes and interviewing and coaching. So over the last many years, I've taken 4 mentoring clients per month. I never have advertised. I don't need to. People find me. I don't work in Hebrew. I only work in English. So I help with resumes. I help with interview coaching. I help people figure out their stories so that they can go into an interview with like 2 or 3 canned stories that they're ready to tell. People have done wonderful things. They often don't think that they have. But because I'm a marketing writer, somebody tells me what they've done and I can parrot it back to them in much more spectacular language. And the reward here is not just, okay, they get a job. Wonderful. That's about the biggest mitzvah you can do. Help someone get a job. The ikal for me is making that person recognize that they are talented. If someone gives me their background and I mirror it back saying, oh, so you're managing an international real estate portfolio and teams in 6 countries? And they go, well, yeah, but I guess I wouldn't say it that way. Well, why not? Because that's exactly what you're doing. So my passion for rewriting things in more bombastic language, I do this in my sleep. I've done it all my life. I was faulted, let me tell you, in Milwaukee because nobody likes girls who are loud and opinionated and tell stories. I did not fit in Milwaukee. But this talent has followed me. And yeah, people come to me. I get on the phone for an hour, hour and a half. It's usually 2 sessions. Do we need to work on your resume? Let's talk about your limitations. Do you have to Can you commute? Can you work in office? Can you work after 4? Can you work in Hebrew? I start from limitations and I work backwards.
That's what I do in coaching also. You have to figure out what you want and then the best story to tell of how to get it, or, if you're not up to that part yet, the best path to take of how to get there. Would you be open to sharing your contact information to these podcast listeners?
Oh,
Or you're
sure.
already
I mean,
full?
it depends on my schedule. Absolutely. The reason that I decided on 4 per month is because I have a window on Wednesday mornings that I coach. And I do that for free. I've never charged anybody because it's not a business. It's really just, listen, I have some wisdom that I can share. And the market right now, it's not great. It's not great. So if you need some help figuring out how to pitch yourself, either in writing or with stories, let me know. I'll try to fit you in.
Amazing. I love that. And I'm sure a lot of people have benefited and can benefit from your wisdom. As a final question, I just want to ask, what is the best advice you would give someone based both on your HR experiences and your corporate and now the nonprofit? That's a pretty wide range of someone who's looking to make a change into any of those fields, either maybe someone from nonprofit to corporate or from or the other way around, and someone in this specific age. What's the best advice you would give to someone who's afraid to make the change or facing a change that they didn't expect and have to embrace?
Number 1, trust your gut. Gut, gut, gut. Even as a new business owner 15 years ago when I started, I kept making decisions based on what should. I should take this client. I should have this profit margin. Bit me in the rear end every time. After about 5 years, I learned to trust my gut. There's something off with this client. I don't want them. It's a very scary thing to say as an entrepreneur. And sometimes you can add a PITA tax, pain in the tax, and make it more worth your while. But if your gut says no, bad match, you're sketched out, you get a bad feeling, bail. That is the first advice. Second, excuse me, no shame. Something didn't go well. You got fired. You quit. Talk to the person who is going to help you through the resume process about how to frame it. Mostly, you want to be a little vulnerable and you want to be transparent. Figure out how to do that diplomatically to not make yourself look awful, because it's probably not you. Work with someone like me, like Sari, like a career coach. Work with ChatGPT. They're very good about how to frame what it is that you're looking for once you're sure, in a way that is advantageous to the person you're talking to. Figure out what they want, not what you need, and place yourself there.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so, so much for your time and for your insights. Really best of luck in this, not just in the career change, but in this mission that you're on.
I consider it very much a mission, and thank you. We are going like gangbusters. We had 4 weddings canceled this week because of the situation, but they're back on. Our rabbis are ready.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sari. I really appreciate the opportunity. This was a lot of fun.